This is HBR News number 388, where we discuss the news of the week and give it the Badger treatment. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. I hope you guys are doing well this week and that you are laughing at all of this absurdity so that you are not consumed by it. I am your host, Brian Martinez, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Hannah Wallen. Unfortunately, Mike J and Dr. Rana McCam are unavailable still. Rana McCam is going to be back next week. He is still spending quality time with his family, which is great, as is Mike J. So we will hopefully see them next week, but we are still here to bring you some Badgery goodness this week, regardless. And I'm telling you, there are some interesting stories on this week's docket, so I don't think we can really pass it up.
Yeah, that's for sure. It's some crazy stuff has happened.
Yeah, exactly. So on this week's HBR News Show, we're going to be talking about the hot water that Scottish authorities have found themselves in for basically abiding by some language changes pushed by the European Union. Some things involving Andrew Tate. Again, he's been, in the news pretty much consistently. And more. So, stick around. It's going to be a good time. And be sure to join us afterwards for the patron-only show. So this is what I got for the patron show. Today, I have this article from, let me put it up on the screen so you guys can see it. It's from the Institute for Family Studies, and it's entitled Saving Men from the Men's Rights Movement. So
Of course,
men need to be rescued from people who advocate for their rights.
Men need to be rescued from the idea that they are just as human as women are, and every human rights issue that applies to women should also apply to men.
Yup. And and it also makes mention of people like Paul Elam, so you know what you're getting into, Mike Buchanan, but also folks like Roosh and others. So we'll get into that in the patron show. If you guys would like to join us on the patron show, you have to become a Badger. So to do that, go to feedthebadger.com. Set up a monthly subscription. $5 a month will get you a link so that you can go into the Discord and watch all of the additional content. And it's a lot of additional, like hours and hours of additional content. So
I gotta say, when they accuse most of us of being, kitten-eating barbarians and stuff, like they may be able to get away with that. But it's bizarre and crazy when they accuse Mike Buchanan, because he is the most polite man. And if you ever have a chance to talk to him, like it would make your head spin. The things they say about him in comparison to the person that he actually is. Like, I am an asshole. Like, I deserve to be accused of being grouchy and mean sometimes, because like I will be, right? But I don't know. It's funny when I see them act like they're scared of Mike Buchanan. They have to only be scared of his intelligence, because they sure can't be scared of his personality.
No. I mean, they do the same thing to Warren Farrell, right?
Yeah, I know, the same thing. And he's like, he's another one. They're both really big teddy bears in terms of they just want people to have their rights respected, and they want people to be kind to each other. And then they get accused of being kitten-eating barbarians.
Yup. So as I was saying, no headlines, Brian. No, well, we're going to get into that. We're going to get into it. We got 3 headlines to look at today. So All right. Anyway, we have our 3 stories picked out, and we're gonna go through them. If you guys could give us a like on the video and subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications so you know when our streams go live. It's super useful. I'm telling you this up front because it might help us on the algorithm. Like if you get that done earlier, and maybe it'll like reach more people. I don't know. I'm just trying things. So anyway, with all that said, let's get into the stories. Okay? So yeah, I just wanted to mention again that saving men from the men's rights movement, that is the after show topic. So if you want to do that, go and become a badger by going to feedthebadger.com and starting up a monthly subscription. And we hope to see you guys there. So, all right. So let's get into the stories. Hold on a second. All right. So first, we have this story from Scotland. Scotland police describe pedophiles as minor attracted people in report. Okay. Scottish police sparked outrage after describing pedophiles as minor attracted people in a year-end report. Chief Constable Leon Livingstone said police have worked on a project that's main agenda is to develop understanding and approach to avoid the victimization of children by engaging minor attracted people, MAPS, and providing them with the necessary support, treatment, and guidance to help prevent criminal activities, as cited by the New York Post. The phrasing drew criticism, some saying that the police were normalizing sex crimes against children. A Conservative Party leader in Scotland said that, quote, most Scots will find any attempt to soften the language around pedophilia in general guidance to be deeply disturbing and wrong. According to the disapproval, Canadian psychologist Jordan Peterson tweeted, "How about we don't do this? Minor attracted people equal predators, plain and simple." In an attempt to deflect the blame, officials say that the terminology was based on European Union language. Quote, Police Scotland does not use the term minor attracted person, the statement read. The reference in the Chief Constable's assessment of policing performance was in the context of Police Scotland's engagement with the Horizon Project EU consortium to tackle child sexual abuse and exploitation. So the idea is that the language is not something that the Scottish police are putting in, but rather it's something that they are essentially like being expected to use as per the European Union's own, I guess, dealings with language.
See, this sounds to me like a become ungovernable moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just no, we will not use your approving language. We will not eat the bugs. We will not take the jab anymore. We will not wear the masks. We will not approve of the pedophiles. Right? We will like bullshit. Like, no.
Yeah.
That's it. You just can't.
No.
And this is not political correctness. This is flat out propaganda. Like the idea that then next thing they're going to do is they're going to take people who have debilitating disorders that mostly affect themselves, and like you have the rare person who it affects their interaction with the world around them in a way that makes them dangerous to other people as well. But people who have hallucinations as part of a mental illness, and call them, I don't know, reality affected people instead of by the name of their mental illness when identifying what kind of help they need. Right? Pedophilia is pedophilia. It's not minor attraction. It's not a sexual preference. It's not just a body type.
Mm-hmm.
It's a desire for the ability to dominate and control children and exploit them. And
Yeah.
there's nothing innocent about it.
Yeah.
It's not just a handicap. It is a handicap, but it's not just a handicap, and it's not in and of itself the handicap. The handicap is a mental illness that causes it.
Yeah.
And when people turn around and try to I get really heated on this because obviously of my experiences and my experiences with people trying to normalize this shit.
Yeah,
Right?
for sure.
But when you have a conversation on social media or even in person with someone who is trying to justify this shit, you can ask them, right? If it's just a body type, if it's just a sexual preference, then wouldn't you be fine being with an adult who just looks very young? And they will say no, because they would know it's not a child. Well, why? Why would you know it's not a child? Well, they don't have a child's innocence. That conversation, I've had that conversation multiple times where I've asked that question, and those are the answers I've gotten. And that answer tells you it's not about the body type. It's not about physical attraction to a body type. It is about getting off basically on abusing someone who cannot consent, who is not competent to consent, and who is not competent to refuse.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is false framing when they tell you it's an attraction, when they say minor attracted people. It's false framing, exactly like I didn't punch you, I was hitting you. You were not punched, you were hit, right?
Mm-hmm.
You were still abused, okay? It's still abuse. It's abuse to push someone. It's abuse to smack someone. It doesn't matter whether you're punching or hitting. And it doesn't matter how you phrase it.
Mm-hmm.
It's abuse to take sexual advantage of someone who is not competent to refuse or consent, who doesn't have the capacity to appraise their actions. It is no different. It is no better to sexually abuse a child than it is to sexually abuse someone who is passed out because they are intoxicated. It no better to do this than to sexually abuse someone because they are so severely intellectually disabled that they don't understand what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So when someone tries to sell you this idea, it's bullshit. Right? So it's dangerous when some guy down the street or some woman on Twitter, or just any random person does it. That's dangerous enough. That's bad. And that's been going on for 20 years online. Right? And this term is 20 years old at least. But this is government.
Mm-hmm.
This is authority telling you that you're expected to tolerate the idea of people who get off on sexually exploiting children who cannot appraise their actions, who are not competent or in a position to refuse, and who are not competent to consent. That should scare the ever-loving fuck out of you.
Yeah. Yep. All great points. Well, all I will say is just remember that it's the EU that was pushing this. So if you're going to hold anybody accountable, maybe hold them accountable. And also, I mean, not that you shouldn't.
The bigger the government, the worse they get, honestly. So you take a step up when you allow a multinational world government. It's harder to fight a decision like this. Like, you can go to your city council if your city council starts using this kind of language and say what you want in a meeting, and they have to listen to you, right? And you can vote them out of office with just a majority of the people in your little city, or your big city. But your state government becomes harder. Your county government becomes harder. Your state government becomes harder. Your province government. Your national government becomes damn near impossible. And then when you get into an international governing body, do Europeans even get to vote for the representatives individually, or do their representatives vote for the representatives in their international government? Because that puts a layer of basically somebody else making a decision in your stead, in between you and people who are imposing laws on you, which takes away your freedom and takes away your protections for your human rights and your civil rights.
Yeah. Yep. All right. Let us know what you guys think about this story in the comments. I look forward to hearing from you. Now we're gonna move on to the next story. So, like I said before, let us know what you guys think about this in the comments. All right. This one had it was a bit of a weird set of sources, but we're going to be talking about Andrew Tate. So, controversial social media personality Andrew Tate has been in the news cycle yet again. Tate was arrested by Romanian police on suspicion of rape and human trafficking following a raid on his luxury home in Bucharest. He was detained alongside his brother Tristan. Both brothers have been under investigation since April. The viral tale of Tate being outed to the Romanian police by his pizza order, because that's kind of like what a lot of people were relating it to, in an attempt to meme on Greta Thunberg, is more than likely false. Because, just because you like to have sex with attractive women and you also like pizza, that's kind of a stretch, guys. And it's funny because you would have thought that, they would have been the, the conspiracy theorists for putting those things together. But apparently, no, they don't think it is when they do it. But all right. However,
the person who came up with that has sort of become known as Blue Anon.
Yeah.
If that tells you anything.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's, again, it looks like it's just a coincidence that he happened to be having pizza and he happened to put it on camera. I don't think it's anything like what it's being presented as. I think that's really sad. But so the viral tale of Tate being outed to the Romanian police by his pizza order in an attempt to meme on Thunberg is more than likely false. However, the day prior to his arrest, Tate had tweeted to the climate activist, that's Greta Thunberg, bragging about his 33 cars with enormous emissions. The tweet bragged about his cars and ended, quote, "This is just the start. Please provide your email address so I can send a complete list of my car collection and their respective enormous emissions," he wrote to Thunberg. To which she replied, "Yes, please do enlighten me. Email me at smalldickenergy@getalife.com," which is kind of a weird email address for her to have, but okay. In response, Tate then posted a video of himself dressed in a bathrobe while smoking a cigar before a pizza box is handed to him with Romanian writing on the side. In a press release cited by the Epoch Times, Romanian authorities stated the victims were, recruited by British citizens and by misrepresenting their intention to enter into a marriage/cohabitation relationship and the existence of genuine feelings of love. They were later transported and housed in buildings in Ilfov County, where by exercising acts of physical violence and mental coercion. Though the statement does not specifically name the Tate brothers, the alleged organized crime ring is thought to involve them and two Romanian nationals. So I don't know what to think about this story. I've heard mixed things. I would normally have just ignored this, to be honest. But it seems what really seems weird about this is that the government is they're just doing shit to this guy, and they've got nothing to. No, there's no checks or balances. So I don't know, like, if any of the things that they're accusing him of are true, and it doesn't matter, like, that it sounds like it could be true. Like that's not important. And yet, I think that's what they're going off of with this. So I don't know. What do you think?
Well, the first thing that I noticed, and all the people that are talking about this, is because there isn't a lot of solid like fact out there. We know this is true, or we know that is true, 100% undeniable. Besides, here are what the accusations are. He's been undeniably accused. These things have definitely been said, right? Not that the accusations have been proven, but there's no doubt that the accusations have been made.
Yeah.
And he has been arrested. I actually had a long argument with somebody on Twitter about this, who essentially, like, her claim was that because he has been arrested, that there must be evidence.
Yeah, it proves his guilt, right?
Right, and that's called affirming the consequence. If you commit a crime, you can get arrested. Therefore, if you get arrested, you must have committed a crime. Well, no, not necessarily, because there are times when people get falsely accused. There are lies people tell to get people accused. The cops can actually be corrupt. We've seen that numerous times. And, I mean, God forbid we consider the possibility that Romanian government authorities might ever have been corrupt.
Yeah.
No, that only happens in the United States. We're the only country in the whole world whose authorities have been corrupt ever.
Yeah.
Right. But seriously, that seems to be the gist of the discussion. There are things that are provable. He has some financial stuff going on that from the outside, it really looks like a grift. Basically, preying on people's desire to do better financially and become better people. And it doesn't necessarily mean that all of his advice is bad or good or whatever. But almost every guru that tells you how to live is going to have some things that, because you disagree with them, are going to look like a grift to people from the outside.
Yeah.
He has more than a few things. So I'm not saying don't listen to anything he says, don't like him or anything like that, but I'm not a fan, but I'm also not a hater, let's put it that way. But what I haven't seen is any kind of a smoking gun. I haven't seen and it doesn't mean there isn't one, right? It means it hasn't been made public if there is one. And evidence that to prove that there isn't one has also not been made public. So it's kind of harder for him to do that. I think he and his brother are still under arrest.
Yeah.
But this is, and I again, there are things that can be used by connection. Like, I guess they found weapons that are not easy to get a permit for in Romania. They found a lot of money. There were women on the property that were doing the things that the accusers said they were forced to do. That doesn't necessarily mean force was involved. That doesn't prove force. Lots of women actually do that same thing by choice for money and make a killing. But my opinion on this is really simple. Due process first. Due process is vital. Everybody deserves it. Even if they had been accused of, like, they're accused of human trafficking, that's exploitation. They're accused of violence in order to support that human trafficking, right? So that, if they're guilty of that, fuck them, all right? They lose my support entirely for that. It doesn't matter whether they traffic men or women, adults or children, fuck them, right? But
Yeah.
until it's proved, my only position is I don't know whether they're guilty or not.
Mm-hmm.
And again, due process first. And we've seen so many false allegations and so many false arrests, and so much of women using or people on women's behalf using
Mm-hmm.
false allegations to get things they want, to get attention, to get money, to get somebody to come back to them, all kinds of stuff, that skepticism is the only correct road if you are not provided with solid evidence. And this is, none of the evidence is really solid here. There's an overwhelming amount of evidence that is not solid, doesn't prove something. Right? You need at least something solid.
Yeah.
And as there are, the thing that really bothers me about people just flipping on this, I guess, would be the people who had supported his right to free speech are now flipping on, well, this guy was bad all along and he makes us look bad. Two
Mm-hmm.
things. No, he doesn't make us look bad, because none of us are doing the thing he's accused of. And no, this doesn't make everything he said wrong.
Right.
If Hitler told you that the sky is blue and that the surface of the earth is curved, it would still be true even though Hitler said it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
If the devil came along and told you that human beings are genetically human,
Mm-hmm.
you would still know that was true, even if the devil came along and said it and he lies about everything. That would still be true. A person who has done reprehensible things, and I'm not saying that Tate has done reprehensible things, because like I said, I don't know. But if he did reprehensible things, that will not make anything true that he said into a lie. It will not make anything true that he said into a wrong. And it will not reflect on anybody else that said similar things that hasn't done anything reprehensible.
Right.
So when people come at you with that, that is the point to make.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody reprehensible that did reprehensible things, advocated for abortion, for instance, does that mean that all women should hate the idea of abortion because of that person? Because there's a lot of women that are pro-abortion, despite the fact that the woman who fought the hardest initially for it in the United States wanted to use it to get rid of black people.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And maybe those other women don't have that opinion. Maybe those other women have other reasons for wanting it. And their reasons are what you should be arguing with if you're pro-life and you're arguing with them. But it's pretty darn easy to say, well, Margaret Sanger was a eugenicist who wanted to get rid of black people. Is that the kind of person you are, since you support the same procedure?
Mm-hmm.
So you have ways to make people understand, or at least take away people's pretense of not understanding, that a person having something reprehensible about them does not untruth actual truth.
Right.
And truth isn't relative. It's not malleable. It exists and it's undeniable. It's immutable.
Uh-huh.
Facts are not, like the facts don't change. The situation might change, and that adds new facts. But it doesn't. It's not something that you can just change by believing differently.
Right.
So
It's true.
that's my thing. Like, and again, it's there's a huge difference between volunteer behavior and human trafficking. So I would wait for evidence to find out if it's proved that they forced the women that are working for them into what they're doing, or if they didn't. And
Mm-hmm.
I would also wait for evidence for the money laundering allegations and everything else as well.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as Blue Anon, like, duh, this
Yeah.
kind of criminal allegation doesn't get made flippantly. And when they look for somebody, when authorities look for somebody and find somebody that is considered to be a crime lord of some sort, where they've got an empire of criminal endeavors, including money laundering and prostitution and stuff like that,
Sure.
they're not. They don't just not know where they are and then get a little bit of information on the internet and go, you know, running in pell-mell with the next day. They plan a raid when they find out where the person is, and they watch and evaluate first. So they're not sending their men into, like, he could have had a house full of guns.
Yeah.
And people to use them on any officers that went in there. They had to find out first that that was not true. Right? They had to find out first if he was spoofing his location. They had to find out first if they were going to go into that house and there was going to be nothing there. So that it's kind of silly. The claim that was made was kind of silly.
Yeah.
I guess that's it for me.
No, that's a lot. That's plenty. So good. Thanks for adding all of that, especially the context and whatnot. So regarding like Andrew Tate.
I will also recommend watching V. Monroe's videos on this, because it's good to hear about it from a Romanian, and he's made some of the same points about, if you don't have solid evidence, the answer is that you don't know, not you have to form an opinion of guilt or innocence. I think that's probably the most important point in this.
Oh, absolutely. So let us know what you guys think about this story in the comments. There is a lot of hyperbole and surrounding this, and regardless of what your feelings are on Andrew Tate himself, let's just try to remain objective. So I look forward to seeing your comments, and maybe you'll be able to give us some, some new perspective that we didn't have. So, all right, we're going to move on to the last story. So I only did 3 today. And this one is wild. So apparently exercise is white supremacy. A new book will be coming out this month by a historian of exercise, Natalia Melman-Petrella, called Fit Nation: The Gains and Pains of America's Exercise Obsession. Time magazine interviewed the author, exploring, quote, the white supremacist origins of exercise. On the history of exercise, Petrella says it's really not until the 1980s that you start to have a consensus that everybody should be doing some form of exercise. That's partly the result of the women's movement of the 60s and 70s, which I don't know how that has anything to do with it, but okay, which fought for Title IX, allowing girls to play school sports. That pushed back on notions that girls and women aren't capable of doing vigorous exercise because they're fragile. I don't think that's the reason. One of the things I set out to do in this book is to look at the change in how we think about our bodies and what's considered unattractive and attractive. Petrella says in researching for her book, it was most interesting to read reflections of, fitness enthusiasts in the early 20th century. They said we should get rid of corsets. Corsets are an assault on the woman's form, and that women should be lifting weights and gaining strength. At first, you feel like this is so progressive. No, it's not, actually. Then you keep reading, and they're saying white women should start building up their strength because we need more babies. They're writing during an incredible amount of immigration, soon after enslaved people had been emancipated. If by soon you mean like a couple hundred years. This is totally part of a white supremacy project. So that was a real holy crap moment as a historian, where deep archival research really reveals the contradictions of this moment. Well into the 1960s, women were not encouraged to do any kind of strenuous exercise, but they were, of course, encouraged to do whatever it took to be beautiful and slim. The idea that all bodies can exert themselves and work hard, including women's bodies, is a really positive development, and it's one of the reasons that you don't see these passive exercise machines anymore. All right,
Oh boy.
yeah.
So to start with, this completely ignores the way that the Industrial Revolution it affected farming and work at home, home businesses, and um, personally owned businesses, as well as work in industrial settings and work in things like coal mines and so on. Like that human work throughout civilization, the history of civilization, has been heavy exercise, heavy labor, and it's only been during the latter half of the 19th century and the 20th century and 21st century that we've had a significant amount of underclass work, not like the privileged upper classes that do things like ruling the masses or being writers for a living, or anything like that, any kind of administrative duties and stuff like that doesn't involve a lot of exercise. So you would see a lot of wealthy people get fat because they didn't have a lot of exercise, and exercise existed for them well before the time period that this woman is mentioning, right? Used to be an upper class thing. And you saw people engaging in recreational athleticism throughout all of civilization as a form of competition that was not deadly. You
Yeah.
weren't trying to kill each other. You were just trying to demonstrate your physical prowess and superiority. And that's exercise. It might not have been the only point of it, but it's definitely exercise, right? And there's always been exercise for women. Exercises to help a woman develop the muscles that she needs to develop in order to make childbirth and the labor of childbirth, safer for the
Yeah.
woman
And the
and less
baby.
painful. Like those have existed since, well, for all time, really. Belly dancing is partly about that. Like obviously, it's about being sexy. There's no denying that because you can see it. But a great deal of what it does is centered around strengthening exactly the muscles that a woman uses to push a baby out,
Yeah.
right? And to support the baby while it's growing. So these are not new concepts, and they don't have anything to do with whiteness, and they don't
No,
have
of course.
anything to do with like privilege or anything like that. In the modern era, it's you have even people who are of the lowest of income can have jobs where they do almost nothing at work, and you don't get any exercise doing that. Right? You don't get if you're sitting at a desk like pushing a button to let people into a factory, that can be a security job. I had that security job. I did that when I lived in Northwest Ohio for a few years. Like that was my entire job, was to sit in a little guard tower and push a button if people were allowed to come in, and not push the button if they were not allowed to come in. That's it. Not much exercise in that. Like my finger didn't get fat, but I would not be a well hung lesbian. But yeah, I like that. It's insane that this woman would make this claim.
Yeah.
And yeah, the passive exercise machines, those didn't just exist for women.
Yeah.
Those existed for both sexes. They were kind of ridiculous, but we still have them. The idea that they're
Mm-hmm.
not still in existence, they've just changed. They don't roll you and vibrate you now. They shock you with actual electric shocks. Like, you honestly couldn't pay me to try one of those things out. But they're used in physical therapy now. If you
Mm-hmm.
have chronic muscle pain, they might put you on a machine where they put they're like suction cups that go on your back,
Mm.
and it actually zaps your muscles and it causes your nerves to settle down somehow.
Hmm.
There's a type of device that you can even get to do that to your spine, to help settle your nerves,
Yeah.
and it works for some people, right? But it's not a thing that's gone, and they really haven't gotten rid of corsets either. They're still kind of popular. So all of that, like this woman, I don't know what planet she's writing from, but it's not the one where human beings live.
Right.
Um, so she's basically latched onto some stupid thing that some white supremacist said, and we're again back to affirming the consequent. Um, this person said this about exercise, so that's obviously what exercise is about for them. Exercise
Mm-hmm.
is popular, so it obviously must be about what that one person said to everybody. Well, no, just because somebody said that doesn't mean that it's about that for everybody.
Right.
It's baloney. So she's falsely framing the history of exercise and fitness and human activity. But,
Yeah.
it's obviously feminism is like that. All
Mm-hmm.
feminism is like that.
Mm-hmm. That's true. So, yeah, just this is just the usual stuff, right? Like, feminism's whole thing is how do we blame anything that people enjoy, like fitness, on something evil like the patriarchy or Hitler or whatever. And that's it. That's the work. That is the work, as they call it. And so they find someone who, I would say, wrote something that probably is a massive stretch to try and blame white supremacy for exercise. And these women, they bought into it. They basically said, "Oh, I don't know, that sounds a little, that sounds a little ridiculous to me." And then they read on, and because these things are written in such a way that, they're supposed to like get you to agree with them eventually, they gaslight you, they use bad examples, etc. Then it doesn't have to be all of them, but a good chunk of the women, they fall for it and they say, "Oh yeah, because exercise is meritocracy, it's hard work." And we all know that hard work is basically like Hitler, because he was big on hard work or something. And so they go along with it. I mean, I don't know what else it could be. But yeah, it's sad. Although I want to
Yeah,
say that this guy on the right here, I like his mustache.
there we go.
In this picture, yeah. So,
I gotta say, you've heard Rule 34, right? If it
mm-hmm,
exists, there's porn of it.
mm-hmm.
So my rule is, if it exists, feminists have a way that they believe women are victims of it.
Oh, for sure, absolutely. And if they can
And
demonize men or white people or whatever along the way, they'll do it.
right, and
Mm-hmm,
critical race theory is just feminism plus.
mm-hmm. Absolutely. It is. It's just feminism plus. That's it. Um. All right. So, with that said, let us know what you guys think about this in the comments section. We're going to be heading into the patron show now, and we're going to be looking at this article from the Institute for Family Studies. entitled Saving Men from the Men's Rights Movement. I don't know what's in it, but I have a feeling it's cancer. So, I guess we'll just prepare ourselves. If you guys want to watch this with us, please become a badger by going to feedthebadger.com and setting up a monthly subscription. $5 a month will get you into the Discord. And you can also give it higher levels so that you have more access. But if you can get into the Discord, you'll be able to watch the additional content. I think it's totally great, and I look forward to seeing you all there. So, if you guys like this video, please smash that like button. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications. Let us know what you guys think about what we talked about on the show today with the comments. And please share this video because sharing is caring. All right, so thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of HBR News. And we will talk to you all in the next video.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.